Wawitamuya pei wonoka te wechia. Wawitamuya pei wonoka de kandoja. Noka, noka, down there I go. Noka, noka, down there I go. Tiat noka, ik te negesja. Nande mago te tiat noka, ik ga wap meta. Noka, noka, down there mago. Noka, noka, when I go.
So I have to take the blame. I stood back, I watched it all. I even helped imprison you behind those walls. No excuse is good enough. We never let you speak unless you mimicked us. I can't run.
I'd like now to invite to the mic Mr. Erwin Ellman, President of the Canadian Council of Child and Youth Advocates, Conseil canadien des défenseurs des enfants et des jeunes. Avec Monsieur Delgraff, accompanied by Mr. Delgraff, Vice President of the Canadian Council of Child and Youth Advocates.
Thank you. I want to start by acknowledging that we are here today on the traditional land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabeg people, and we give thanks for the honor to be here. We also want to acknowledge and thank Commissioner Sinclair and Commissioner Littlechild and Commissioner Sinclair for the historic work that they've done to bring us here. Most importantly, we want to thank the survivors with us today and across the country. It is to you, most importantly, to whom we speak. Our council is composed of 11 independent child and youth advocates, one of each in each province and territory of Canada. We strive to work together to be a national voice for children and youth. Many of our members, child and youth advocates and representatives, have traveled to be here with you today to make this statement of reconciliation and action.
It is such an honor to be here. On behalf of the Canadian Council of Child and Youth Advocates, I want to describe our Declaration of Reconciliation. The experience of the past is a lesson for the future. We have learned from the experiences of those who were sent to residential schools, of the profound tragedy that resulted when the rights of children, their connection to family and community, and their traditions and cultures were not respected. The federal government's residential school policy of forcibly removing all children from the home as young as 4 years old until they were adolescents or in some cases never returned home left a tangible emptiness. It is a forced exodus that seems unthinkable today. We have listened and we now know the truth. We know Aboriginal peoples and all Canadians were changed by residential schools. As independent child advocates in each of our respective provinces and territories, we listen every day to the voices of Aboriginal children who suffer the intergenerational trauma of the residential school system. We hear their voices. The 11 members of the Canadian Council of Child and Youth Advocates share an unwavering belief in and respect for the rights of children and youth. As enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, all children have basic rights to health, safety, education, and well-being. The family is recognized as a fundamental and natural environment for the growth and well-being of children. Children have the right to be heard. In our work advocating for the rights of children and youth, we have special regard for the circumstances of Aboriginal children and youth, who are among the most vulnerable and marginalized groups of children in Canada. Our pledge is to ensure that the rights of Aboriginal children and youth are kept at the forefront of our advocacy work. The Canadian Council of Child and Youth Advocates, in the spirit of active reconciliation, supports the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's work on residential schools. The members of the Council strive to be a voice for all children and youth, and as such, we support the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the implementation of the history of residential schools in the curriculum of all public schools. We call for this in memory of those children who have passed away, those who survived, those who are living through the legacy of the imposed trauma, and to improve all Canadians' understanding of the true history of our country. Our Council of Advocates will continue to work towards reconciliation initiated by the Truth and Reconciliation process. We will be vigilant in ensuring that the rights of Aboriginal children are respected. We will continue to work to engage with Aboriginal children and youth. The healing journey and the path to reconciliation includes the involvement of youth in defining their own future. This is a journey that must be taken by all Canadians. By appreciating the past and hearing and learning from and about each other, trust and respect can be built. We will work to support Aboriginal children and youth to speak out, have their voices heard, and have their best interests reflected in how our nation's future unfolds. Thank you very much.
To the survivors, there are times when one often hears there are no words. This is one of those times. And when people say that, you judge them, you understand that they've heard you by their actions and deeds. In the coming weeks, in the coming months, in the coming years, we will demonstrate to you as a council that we have heard. Through our actions and deeds, you will know we have heard. As a symbol of that, we're presenting to you and to the Bentwood Box a report that we wrote. Canada must do better today and tomorrow for Indigenous children. And we took this report to the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child in Geneva with 7 First Nations young people to speak. We were supported with Kairos and the First Nation Child and Family Caring Society, the Saskatchewan Advocate, Ontario Advocate, made sure those young people were there to speak to this report, and we give you that as a symbol of our unwavering commitment. I'm reminded of the end of a passage at the end of a story that Thomas King wrote, and I'll paraphrase. He said something to the effect of, you can take this story, do what you will with this story. You can turn it into a movie, you can turn it into an article, you can study it, you can dismiss it, you can make policy with it, you can make change with it. You can do what you will, but you can never live your life again as if you've never heard that story. You've heard it now. To the survivors, we know how difficult it was to tell that story. We know when you speak, it's the tip of the iceberg, and you need to relive incredibly difficult times. And you do that, you'd suffer that pain again, to make a difference in the world. And we know the courage it takes to hope that in telling that story, something will change. Incredible courage. And you do that in order to help others, and the children that are coming after you are still suffering a legacy. We know that. And we will, as a council, show you day in, day out that we have heard your story. We will not live our lives as if we've never heard it. We will, as a council, always operate and function listening and thinking about that story you've told. You've already changed the world.
Mr. Erwin Ellman and Mr. Delgraff were accompanied in front of the stage with advocates and representatives from all 11 independent members of the Canadian Council of Child and Youth Advocates that are honored to be here. We have people from Alberta, Office of the Child and Youth Advocates, people from British Columbia, Representative for Children and Youth, people from Manitoba, the Office of the Children's Advocate, people from New Brunswick, Child and Youth Advocate, Newfoundland and Labrador, Advocate for Children and Youth, Nova Scotia, Office of the Ombudsman, Youth Services, Nunavut, Representative for Children and Youth, Ontario, Office of the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth, people from Quebec, Commission des droits de la personne et des droits de la jeunesse, et enfin, Saskatchewan, Advocate for Children and Youth, Yukon. And we also have Yukon Children and Youth Advocate Office.
I apologize. I thought that God was on my side, and with my righteousness I'd tame the savage child. I would not have them running free. If they assimilate, they could be like me. How many can the wagons hold? Another 1,000 children, I suppose. It must have seemed like Judgment Day, the anguish as the wagons rolled away. I can't begin to know your pain. You can't forgive as long as memory remains. Through it all, you still survive. All that I can do is say I'm sorry. I apologize.
I am the chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and I want to begin on behalf of my colleagues, Dr. Marie Wilson and Chief Wilton Littlechild, to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Algonquins, and we acknowledge as well with thanks the traditional keepers of this land, the Kitigan Zibi Anishinabek and the Pikwakanagan First Nations, for welcoming us here today. I want to, on behalf of the Commission, welcome all of you here today for this very special and very important moment in our history as a Commission and in our history as a country. On Sunday, you will recall, we marked the start of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's closing ceremony by lighting a sacred fire early on that cold and rainy morning, and then taking part in a very symbolic walk of reconciliation along with 10,000 of our closest friends. We enjoyed musical performances celebrating Aboriginal cultures from all across Canada, providing us with opportunities for reflection and for remembrance, in honor of the survivors of residential schools, the intergenerational survivors, and their families. This has been a difficult, inspiring, and very painful journey for all of us. The residential school experience is clearly one of the darkest, most troubling chapters in our collective history. In the period from Confederation until the decision to close residential schools was taken in this country in 1969, Canada clearly participated in a period of cultural genocide.
My name is Marie Wilson, Commissioner of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. For the past 6 years, my fellow commissioners and I have traveled to hundreds of communities, from the Arctic to the Atlantic to the Pacific Oceans. We've met thousands of survivors, those who were affected through directly attending what were very often schoolhouses of shame, and those intergenerational survivors who were affected in an inherited way because their parents, brothers, sisters, children, or partners were taken from their homes and put in schools where they were taught to hate themselves and their culture. These survivors, you survivors, you inspired our work. Your stories of resilience inspired us, and we are here today on your behalf to ensure your voices are heard not just by us, but by all Canadians, by our political leaders, and by the world.
My name is Mahikant Mohteu, Chief Wilton Littlechild. I'm also EIRS 65, residential school survivor. Now a Commissioner of Truth and Reconciliation. Thank you for joining me here today.
You can forgive as long as memory remains.
The closing ceremony began with the procession of dignitaries, politicians, and survivors to the beat of the drum. The Governor General began his opening remarks with, "This is only the end of the beginning."
Many of us do not know enough about Aboriginal people and cultures in general. And one of the important lessons of this process is that we must learn more about the first peoples of this land.
The ceremony marks the end of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's work. The chair says residential schools' harm is evident today.
And the inability to parent children and maintain loving relationships. The mental, physical, and spiritual abuses, childhood traumas gone untreated over a lifetime, leading to identity confusion, spiritual brokenness, rampant addictions, and epidemic suicides.
Sinclair said none of the commissioners could capture the heart and depth of what they heard.
You free your heart and you free yourself.
So a short video played, showing survivor testimony. Emotions erupted and tears flowed. Sobs were heard.
And I hope my presence has served as a constant reminder to us all that residential schools are part of Canadian history, not Indigenous history, and that the work of truth-telling, and especially the work of reconciliation, belongs to all Canadians.
The TRC's full and final report will be released this fall. In the meantime, the Commission is calling on all Canadians to push for immediate steps toward healing and reconciliation. Anna Francis, AP10 National News, Ottawa.
The treatment of children in Indian residential schools is a sad chapter in our history. Two primary objectives of the residential school system were to remove and isolate children from the influence of their home, families, traditions, and cultures, and to assimilate them into the dominant culture.
hear me, 'cause I've got something I need to ask. It's something that really makes me angry. It's something that I need to get off my chest. Why are all people so mistreated? Why do they lay us down like that? And why take them from the families and place them in them residential camps? In the name of God, they beat them. But tell me, man, where's God in that? And he said, boy, I don't know the answers, but tell you what you can do with that. Oh, and he said, grab your feathers when you can, gather all your medicines, light them up, have a little faith, let the smoke carry your prayers away, yeah. And then
Well, some former students have spoken positively about their experiences at residential schools. These stories are far overshadowed by tragic accounts of the emotional, physical abuse and neglect of helpless children.
there's a fire burning deep down in my soul, and it won't let me go. It's everyone who's gone before me singing in my head. Get it right, be the light, the world needs you now. People dying, children fighting, pray that we could see.
Hi, my name is Norm Bosse. I'm the Child and Youth Advocate for the province of New Brunswick. I've invited the Honourable Graydon Nicholas, the former Lieutenant Governor of the province of New Brunswick, and now the endowed chair in Native Studies at St. Thomas University here in Fredericton, to speak to you today.
My name is Graydon Nicholas. I'm a member of the Malseed First Nation. In our language, we call ourselves Wolistago-Kewi. Waliwan Gizabachi me aviad Makio and Leweston. I just want to thank you in my language of the good work that you're doing and the efforts you are putting as an organization to try to improve the lives of our communities. And of course it begins with children and families. And so there has been a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, and a lot of legacy of hurt. And it's important not only to acknowledge what happened, but more importantly, to set the steps in motion of a better journey into the future. A future full of healing, reconciliation, a future of hope, so that together, as we walk toward that journey of hope, we can do so together with our heads held up high, of one mind and one heart, and that we can even join hands, so that the future will be better not only for my own people, but for the people of Canada as well. Thank you very much. Waliwan.
Open eyes, realize that we could heal that.